And welcome back again, yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander of Keeping It Honest. Of yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. We don't just keep it real, we don't just keep it simple, we keep it honest. Welcome back. Remember the last show that we did? One of the last shows we did, we were covering the Democratic National Convention. We were on all those 4 days. One of the shows we were doing 5 hours, giving you the news that you can use. Remember, we don't just do the left side, we don't just do the right side, we do all sides, and hopefully you decide. You may be upset with us, but hopefully you realize that we tried to give you the truth. If you're new to the show, you know that I ran for Congress, love politics, love the difference that we can make. Ran for Congress a couple years ago and didn't do too bad. I tell people, because people have asked me, well, why did you run? And I tell people, and I was told to run and pushed to run by Dr. Cornel West, who presently is running for president. We had talked, and at the end of the day, in our interview, I told him, don't feel tired, him and his wife. You got to do what you got to do, no matter who's against you. You've got one bit of a chance, and you believe in whoever you believe in, then you got a chance. Because maybe you might run, for people who might run, you may not win, but that doesn't mean you lose. Because you may be in an area, excuse me, where maybe you're in a rural area and you're a black person. Or maybe you're in an area where everybody that has run against you and won has been family members. So it may not be your place at that time to win, but that doesn't mean that you lose. Something to think about. We're going to continue to talk about that. If you know me, we talk about politics. I love politics. I tell people, if you don't like who's in office, then you run or get somebody else to run to get them out of office. And I can tell you, when people say that there are conspiracy theories with a lot of things, I can tell you from the political end, there are. And for you to be the person to run when nobody else is running, you're going to take your hits. But sometimes God wants you to be that example, because somebody may see you and say, wow, that person's taking a lot of hits. I admire their strength and what they believe in. And so I'm going to run. And speaking of running, today it's our watch party, presidential watch party. And this is the first and maybe only presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, vice president. And I want to know, if you're watching this debate tonight, is it going to change your mind about certain things? This may be the one and only debate that you will ever see between these two candidates. And this is Donald Trump's seventh debate, the most debates anybody running for president has ever done. And this is her first. I mean, she did win as VP against Pence, which we've shown, and she did okay. But when she ran for president in 2020, she was one of the first ones, if not the first one, to drop out. Didn't have enough money, wasn't getting the support. And again, I told a story where Senator Clyburn from South Carolina, when Biden was kind of in his basement, and it was around Super Tuesday, and maybe the powers that be, that Biden or Biden's people went up to Claiborne and said, you know, we need your support, because Biden wasn't winning. And Senator Claiborne is the voice, one of the voices of Black people in America to get out the vote. So maybe Claiborne behind doors said, you know what? If I push you to be the nomination, then I want a Black person as VP. Don't think that's not real, because that could have happened. So South Carolina came, the election came. Biden won South Carolina and started winning. And he did say he was going to, put some minorities in office. And it's funny, because the one that he put was Kamala Harris, who, in the debate of 2020, she kind of dogged him. So our politics, fair weather, it all depends. Locally, it may not be. But, you may talk about somebody today and they may be your running mate the next. So Ms. Harris now This was supposed to have been Joe Biden's night. He decided to drop out, and the powers that be thought this would never happen, that he would never drop out because it would be the end of the world. They'd have to get somebody new. They have to either consider Miss Harris or pick somebody else. And they picked Miss Harris. Biden dropped out. And now here she is tied almost literally state by state with Donald Trump. If you have any questions or comments, you can email yours truly. It's parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. You can also leave me a voice message or text. I get a lot of interesting comments on my page, and I love all the comments. We start threads and everything. It's a great little community, so keep that up. That telephone number is 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. Keeping it honest. What do? We talk politics, we talk religion, we do things in a Parker twist or spin that a lot of people don't. We're up and coming. We thank you for supporting us. Tell your friends. Don't just like us, don't just comment, don't just share us. Hit that subscribe button. Help us grow. We're a family. Also, go to our Patreon page, and that page is kind of like a PBS, a fundraising page. You go to that page, we have 3 tiers, and you can decide how much you want to contribute to our website, our program. You can do it monthly, you can do it lump sum, but just do it. You see, we have a lot of stuff out here, and as you'll see we have a lot of stuff that we do. We do short videos from 5 seconds to long videos to about 5.5 hours. We cover anything. We've covered, unfortunately, assassination of a negotiator. We covered the presidential debates. We've gotten clips of things that people may not have seen anywhere else. And if they've seen it, maybe only small people have seen it. So we decided to put it on our page and we comment about it. So we thank you for our support. So what's coming up tonight? They have the debate coming up, and I'm going to give you a little bit. So it's the first showdown, maybe the last, between Vice President Harris and former President Trump. And this is going to be a far different race than when Biden was there, because that last race, it just kind of took Biden out. So you're wondering, who's got a better chance at this debate? Is it going to be Ms. Harris, or is it going to be Donald Trump? So Harris has erased Trump's really high percentage when he was going up against Biden. She's narrowed it. So since Biden's bowed out, she has increased the polls, where a lot of people surprised because Donald Trump was so ahead in the polls. Sorry about that. So how this debate is going to be, there's not going to be a live audience. There's not going to be an audience, period. And their mics will be off only when they're speaking. She wanted the mics on because she likes saying, excuse me, I'm speaking. Excuse me, I'm speaking. Excuse me, I'm speaking. But if Donald Trump's mic is off, she'll be able to say what she's got to say. So this is in Philadelphia. It's the National Constitution Center. And so Vice President Harris, she was a former prosecutor. So some people say she's going to be kind of disadvantaged in this format, which will kind of shield her from asking Donald Trump direct questions and him replying and them interrupting each other. So some people suspect this was the main reason that Donald Trump agreed to have the mics off, because that way she couldn't interrogate them. So Donald Trump says he accepted the debate because it was the same that they were doing underneath Joe Biden. So why change it? It's going to be coming on soon. It's going to have 2 commercial breaks, and it's going to be streaming. So we're going to go on to it and see. So a coin flip. Who do you think won this between Trump and Ms. Harris? Donald Trump. He won this. So he's going to choose either the podium placement or closing argument order. So either where he wants to sit or if he wants the closing argument. So he opted to go last for the closing argument. So she's going to have the position of where she wants to sit. So when you look at this, she's going to be on the right side of the screen. So they're going to stand behind a podium. They won't be sitting down, so they'll be standing. But they can't really address each other. They can't cut each other off, so they'll be standing. So ABC maintains that no candidate will have access to topics or questions or they're both going to be surprised. There won't be any opening statements, which I would have liked. And closing statements will be held to 2 minutes for each candidate. So no opening statements. So no props or drafted notes are allowed. And candidates won't be able to even ask each other any questions. So it's going to be interesting because Trump may ask her about the abortion issue and the border, but they can't ask. And she probably would ask about Project 2025. And they will have 2 minutes to respond to rebuttals. And then they will have an extra minute for a follow-up. So that's what that's going to be. So you're watching again, keeping it honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. And then while they're doing the debate, we're watching it, we're going to make some comments. And you can, also give me some comments too. You can text me, like I said, 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. So on here, I have had videos that I've put up, and I have asked people questions on these videos, and they've commented. So I put a video up called Democracy Looks Like. And this is one of the responses. This is, as far as democracy, as fake as the news. Another one, Kamala accomplishments. I asked people what did they think about the vice president's accomplishments. And they said her entire candidacy, nobody understands except the Marxists. Wow. So throughout the show, we're going to be reading different comments. What did you think about Cheney? He decided he wasn't supporting Trump. He was going to support Ms. Harris. A person told me she's just nuts. And it's interesting because on this poll, I've taken a unscientific poll, asked people what they vote for. And I got to say, 80% maybe people who responded to me, they want Trump. Wow. So this had me thinking too. I always tell people, you're going to vote for the person that can give you money because you don't care unless it affects you. So I have here, read this picture I took on my phone. The proposed 2026 tax plans of Donald Trump and Ms. Harris. And they'll vary depending on income level. So let's go with this. Let's say you have a household income of $48,120 per year. So under Trump, if you make $48,000, he will give you extra, on average, $870. And you're like, wow, that's not too bad. But under Harris, if she becomes president, she'll give you $2,260 more on average. So you got his $870 to her $2,260. Just on that alone, which one would you vote for? If you're thinking about, man, everything's gone up, except for my wages. Food has gone up, gas has gone up, heat's gone up, lights gone up, rent's gone up, but my money hasn't. Trump would give you $870 more. Ms. Harris will give you $2,260 more. If you're going on your money and your tummy, what would you pick? So household income for $138,095 per year, if you're making that much, $138,000, you're making that much. Under Trump, if you're making $138,000, he will give you $3,970 more on average. Doesn't sound too bad. Now listen to this now. He'll give you $3,970. That's for the people making 138,000. So under Harris, you're thinking it's got to be more because she gave us more for 48,000. So if you're making 138,000 and Trump gives you 3,970,000, Harris only gives you 2,870,000. That's almost $100 less than what Trump would give you. And then under the other household income, 48,000, that's only $200 more. So for making 48,000 household to making 138,000, which is almost 100,000 extra, under Harris's platform, there's only $200 difference that you would make and get back. That's crazy. But under Trump's, from 870, if you're making 48,000, to 3970 if you're making 138,000, you get on average 3,000 more. So if again you're thinking about money, who would you want to vote for? Interesting. I'm just keeping it simple, keeping it real, keeping it honest. Yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. It is our watch party. It is our watch party. And we have, as I do the countdown, almost 40 minutes. So what are we going to do with the 40 minutes? Well, we're still going to talk. But before we talk, I want you to see some things. This is taking place outside of Philadelphia. When we were doing the Democratic convention, we saw certain things. And I have to be honest, I like doing things with Parker Twist while they're doing this. And we're trying to find out, of course, it's not to get about what's happening in the real world. This is taking place outside the debate. Let's check it out. Protesters, Gaza, Hamas war.
Move, cops, get out the way! You know you're Israeli drone!
So again, this is a live protest held in Philadelphia, and this is around the time that Trump and Harris are about to debate. So you figure, we don't know how far this is from the debate, usually happen blocks away, but you figure, who's going to address this? How is this war going to end? We just saw not too long ago about some of the hostages being killed. Donald Trump says if he could get in office, he would end it just like that. Whoa, there we go. He would end it just like that. What's Miss Harris saying? You know what? Let's go back, give you a little history lesson. Back in, I think, 1979, Jimmy Carter was president. When he was president, his last year in office, he was in the middle of Iranian war. They had American hostages and just hostages, period. And he couldn't get these hostages back. So his last year was so depressing that he literally stayed in the White House. You didn't really hear from him. He was running against Ronald Reagan. And he tried for months to get these hostages out while he was also running for president for re-election. And he couldn't get them out. So Ronald Reagan won. And the day of the inaugural was when those hostages were released. Jimmy Carter's last year was pretty bad. Now he's remembered as a statesman. He just celebrated, I think, his 100th anniversary, year. He's 100 years old. And it makes you think of Biden. You don't see Biden. When you do see Biden, he's not really doing much. You got these hostages. Secretary of Defense had said, you know what, we're getting closer to getting them released. But then people on the other side said, no, we're not getting close. Biden said he's going to get these hostages home. As you know, some were recently killed. What is it going to take for this war to end? Is Ms. Harris and Biden going to end it? Some people have said, supposedly a news source reported this, that Donald Trump was trying to make a deal with some of the people involved in this war to just hold off releasing them. Because if you release them now, then Harris may win. But if you wait, I may have a better deal and then release them maybe on the first day. Now, is this impossible? Is this a conspiracy? I can tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Mark my words, like I said. I've been doing this political thing for a while. And give you a little more history on me. Did broadcasting for many years in mainstream, did investigative stories, then got out of that and started helping people with disabilities for a while, raised my kids, single father, raised my kids, African American man, represented myself in court and got total custody of my kids. And I became an advocate for people, all people. In the communities where I've lived, I've helped people. Sometimes you take hits for helping people. People sometimes don't like if you don't have that title to be out there. I say anybody can help anybody, but it takes a title sometimes to get things done. Because when you're in office, bam, if you don't like that rule, you can change it. Sometimes I'm telling you, you don't need the power of the people. You do these behind door deals and you change things. That's good and bad. Is there an honest politician out here? Some people say when you become a politician, you change. I've met a lot of them before they were politicians and they've changed. But if you have God on your side, you're going to be that godly person. One of my favorite people was John Lewis. To the day that he died, he was in a hospital, still trying to pass laws. If I had to model myself after somebody, it would be him. So, got out of mainstream, took care of people with disabilities, advocate, and then started getting back into multimedia, but streaming. Started doing this YouTube channel. I've got shows, some have aired, some haven't, where I've interviewed people running for office. Dr. Cornel West, I've done some shows with him and also his wife, and kind of, put it out there. Well, you know what? What happened to Bernie Sanders? Why didn't he support you? And I said, I hear you on interview saying that's your boy. I said, well, your boy doesn't dog you like that. And I said, even if he's still your friend, doesn't it hurt a little bit? And he admitted to me on my show that it did. And that's all that I wanted. I had this guy on my show, David Girl. He wrote a book about Barack Obama. And it was re-released. And this was the time when everybody was talking about how Barack may be possibly gay. Whether you like him or not, that's the story out there. So the guy wrote the book, and it got re-released, so he became popular again, got on all these shows, and I had him on my show. And we did a couple parts, and we examined if Barack Obama was gay. And you have to, go on my site and look up that show. And then we also investigated the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and told the story about if somebody has a tarnished legend, do you print the legend or do you print the truth? And he printed the truth and told the story about Dr. King, how he was I hate to say this to people, but was a womanizer and just did a bunch of bad things. And it's a sad story, but it's a story we have to face. And the guy, David Gary, he caught a lot of flack on that story. But it was a good interview. You have to check out our site for that. And then we interviewed a guy about freedom of speech, where he has a newspaper, and the FBI raided his paper, took all of his equipment. There was a tip. He raided his mom's house, or FBI raided the mom's house, and that next day she died. And then the FBI said, well, we apologize. Heart-wrenching story, but a good story. Our first show that we did, we investigated 27 missing kids in Cleveland, Ohio. and we did a couple part story on that. That was our very first show. So we do all kind of stories, you name it. We talk sports, we talk entertainment, we talk politics, we talk about life. We don't just keep it simple, we don't just keep it real, we keep it honest. And like I said, keeping it honest is sometimes telling the truth that people just don't want to hear. But when you're watching our show, we're gonna let you hear. The best one. So I guess they are not Pamela fans. But I want you guys to see what's happening in the real world. College campuses are still protesting certain things. Are kids today more into politics than when we were kids? I don't think so. So I want you guys to watch this. Hopefully, young people watching this too. The debate's going to be hopefully incredible. It's an hour and a half. It'd be good to have the first black lady, but is she the first black lady that's right for this particular job? Or you better off with Kamala, or better off with Trump? That's the thing. And the polls are kind of even. The one thing I didn't like about Miss Harris was that she did an interview, took her a minute. Okay, she did that interview. It wasn't really a good interview. I wasn't impressed with that. And she didn't have a website up. She had a website, but didn't talk about her policies. Well, Donald Trump was always talking about policies, whether you like it or not. So now, past couple of days, she finally has her website updated with her policies. But why did it take so long? She did it right before the debate. Okay. They said, you know what? Well, you kind of talked about it, but you don't have it outlined. So on her site, she has finally put her policies up. The page is titled A New Way Forward, and it details her economic and foreign policy agenda, as well as some other key issues. And it talks about Project 2025, which I say you guys have got to talk about. Minus yourself, you have to find out about this. I've done stories on it. Okay. So you go into this section on her economic vision, and she says that as president, she would aim to cut taxes for more than 100 million working and middle class Americans while lowering everyday costs. Now you wonder, how can she do that? That's kind of amazing. And if she's doing that, then why didn't she do that with Biden? So they say they will achieve that goal through restoring two tax cuts. The child tax credit expanded to provide a 6,000 cut to families with newborns. I think it was 1,000 before, and the earned income tax credit. And it also talked about her goal to provide first-time home buyers with up to $25,000 in down payment support, and more for first-generation homeowners as home owning increases. So you got the tax cuts, the earned income tax, 6,000 per child. You think of that, whoa, that's crazy. That's like a lot of stimulus checks. Okay. I know you may say something for that. And a down payment of $25,000. Now, right then and there, that makes me think, okay, she's for the people. So, you know how Biden talks about what we did with insulin, we lowered it to so and so. Maybe I should freeze or do something while I'm doing that or whatever. I don't know. But building on his economic goals, the page said Harris would extend the $35 cap on insulin prices and a 2000 cap on out-of-pocket spending. And I can tell you now, looking for medicine, I thank God that, you know, I'm doing pretty good in that. But I feel sorry for people that aren't. So what is Trump's proposal for that? I don't know. Um, and then she talks about on her page his Trump's sweeping proposals on taxing imported goods and alleges his economic plans would trigger a recession. It would slash jobs and will increase the debt by over $5 trillion. Wow. So we know Trump's going to talk about this today. Immigration. What do you think about that? Are too many people coming over the border? Should we build a wall? So she reiterated that she'd revive the border legislation that failed to move through Congress earlier this year and sign it into law on day one. Because you can do that. You can do anything on day one. For anybody in college watching, you can cut the debts day one. Sign that pen. Okay? You could increase minimum wage across the country. Sign that pen. Roe versus Wade, reverse it. Sign that pen. You can do that. So the vice president knows that our immigration system is broken and needs reform that includes strong border security and an earned pathway to citizenship. Well, that's kind of like what Trump said. Is she a flip flopper? We don't know. So on foreign policy, her page says she is working with President Biden around the clock to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done in the Israel Hamas war. Okay, so in answer to that, all we got to do, really, she's trying to seek a ceasefire. All we got to do is go to this.
No peace for stolen land. No peace for stolen land. Justice is our demand. Justice is our demand. No peace for stolen land. No peace for stolen land.
And my question is, how's that look? Just keeping it honest. You got people there protesting, okay? People protesting. That's what they're doing. We can look, we can see. Protesters. We never saw protesters, that's what they look like. And the website, it labels Trump as a threat to our fundamental rights and freedoms. So that's interesting because they can't say she doesn't have policies up there, but it's so ironic how she kind of put them up there right before the election. I'm just keeping it honest. Yours truly, Anthony Parker. So you're thinking, what should Harris focus on tonight? And there are three things I'm going to give you. Should she focus on the economy? Should she focus on Trump's threat to democracy? Should she focus on abortion rights? Or should she focus on countering Trump's personal attacks? Me, myself, we shouldn't have personal attacks. Okay, who cares if his ear is bigger than another ear and she giggles? What do you do for us? That's all we want to know. So again, what should Harris focus on tonight? The economy, Trump's threats to democracy, abortion rights, or countering Trump's personal attacks? In the poll, this was done by Don Lemon, one of my people I like. He was on CNN, now he's got his own show, and he's doing really good. So congrats, Don Lemon. He has a new book out and it's about God and faith in politics and his marriage. You know, he's gay, I think. I don't know if you know this or not, but his marriage. So he opens up and talks about how all that happened to him and also CNN and how it affected him, but also how he loves his mom. So check out So what should Harris focus on today? So I'm gonna go by the top from 4 to 1. County Trump's personal tax, that's 4%. Yeah, like really, who cares? Abortion rights. I'm surprised it's so low. 9%. Wow. Trump's threats to democracy is 42%. I thought abortion rights would be bigger, maybe that 42%, because is he going to get the women's vote or is she going to get the women's vote? And the number one that Harris should focus on tonight is the economy, 45%. So which ones do you think? I think I would have took off the personal tax. I think, now which one's more important, abortion rights, Trump's threat to democracy, or the economy? I think right now it's the economy, because if you don't have money coming in, because money is going out, then everything is bad. So between Trump's threats to democracy and abortion rights, everybody should have the right. It's their own body. That's what I believe. Government, states should not determine how you do your body, whether it's a man or a woman. I think I would put abortion rights second, and then Trump's threats to democracy would be third. Because if you're picking the economy, I don't know if you can pick Ms. Harris because she's been with Biden. And in some ways, it's been the worst economy. But we're all fearful of, for some people, are threats to democracy with Donald Trump. But then you have abortion rights. And I don't know which one. The economy, Trump's threats to democracy, or abortion rights. If you're going to people, it's got to be economy first, because that's everybody. Abortion rights second, because that's mostly women. And then Trump's threats to democracy, which would be everyone. But if you do the economy and abortion, I think you don't have to worry about Donald Trump's threats to democracy. What do you think? We're just keeping it honest, keeping it simple, keeping it real, and keeping it honest. We have the debate coming up real soon. But again, I've got to show you. And you've got to know and you've got to realize what's happening outside. Because I'm curious when they're going to talk about the Gaza situation. Is it going to be brought up sooner, or is it going to be brought up later? What do you think?
فلسطين عربية فلسطين عربية من المية للمية فلسطين عربية فلسطين عربية من المية للمية فلسطين عربية فلسطين عربية بالروح بالدم نفديك يا غزة بالروح بالدم نفديك يا غزة بالروح بالدم نفديك يا غزة.
I can't wait what they're saying. One thing I do know is that they're protesting. Questions, comments? Email me, parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. We have our Instagram page up. I don't know the address right now. So I'm going to, you know what? While I got you here, I'm going to see if I can find it. This is live, used to be live television, but now it's live streaming. So I'm going to see if I can find it right here. Don't know if I can or not, so have patience with me. Let me know, who do you think is going to win? Oh, here we go. Who's going to win this debate? So my Instagram handle is Anthony Alexander SR8. Anthony Alexander SR8. Be one of the ones that leave me a message, and you might get something for that. Instagram, we're going to start putting our Instagram stuff up here too, so you'll know everything about us and what we do. And hold on one second. Okay. We are doing everything here. So when you watch our show, you'll say, wow, he's a one-man show. So most of my information is right here. Keeping it honest with Anthony Parker. Got my phone number. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll have my Instagram number up there or my handle up there. But again, it is Anthony Alexander SR8. Anthony Alexander SR8. So we have a couple more minutes left before this debate. And we're going to see if we can find some other stuff that's happening before the debate comes on, because we want to see what other channels are talking about. And we're going to go to this one page, which I think is interesting. You want to know how other people are thinking about this debate in Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is a big, big state. If I'm correct, they have 19 electoral votes, one of the biggest in the country. And so they want to make sure that they get all of their people involved. So we're going to go to them and let's see what they talk about.
Are two of the best political reporters in Pennsylvania, John Delano, political editor at CBS Pittsburgh station, and Natasha Brown, our political anchor at our CBS Philadelphia station. Natasha, let's start with you. You just heard from some of the voters right there in Bucks County. Talk about how important these Philadelphia suburbs are.
Oh, they are extremely important, Nora. Good evening to you. And the city of Philadelphia certainly is extremely important as well. If you'll recall, back in 2020, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won the city of Philadelphia with 81% of the vote over their competitor, Donald Trump, at the time. So this is an extremely important city. The suburbs are important as well. Democrats need to hold on to voter registrations, hold on to their support there in areas like Bucks County, which is about an hour and 15 minutes away from the city of Philadelphia.
And it's interesting because in 2020, Biden won Philadelphia, but in 2016, Trump won Philadelphia. So the thing is, how many points that they win by? So this is kind of like the tiebreaker coming up.
So every vote is going to matter in this case, and voter turnout is also going to be very important as well. In 2020, it was some of the highest voter turnout since 1984 in the city of Philadelphia. Wow. So Kamala Harris is going to need that kind of energy, that kind of support, that kind of voter turnout here in this area in this election.
So it's interesting because you wonder, how was Biden going to do? Since Harris is in and took his place, is it an easier chance that she may win?
Not, Natasha, you've heard us talk about Pennsylvania as such a huge electoral prize, a must-win states for these candidates. What are the issues you hear are important?
And when they say these issues, let me know if these are some of your issues too.
You know, I think it's the issues that are important to most Americans at this point. I mean, it's the economy, it's inflation, it's reproductive rights, it's crime in urban areas like the city of Philadelphia and some of the outlying areas. All of those are going to be issues that are on the ballot in this election. They will certainly.
So remember, I also said the economy was 45%. So I guess that's what's on most people's mind.
Come up in the debate tonight, and folks are going to be listening to see where these candidates stand on these issues. It's going to make all the difference, and in a race that is already turning out to be very, very close at this point, with only 56 days to go. Every vote counts. They need to be traversing this state from the southeastern part of the state here where we are in Philadelphia to central Pennsylvania, the Harrisburg area, and also the western part of the state, Pittsburgh area as well. So they're going to need all of these votes in all of these areas of the state of Pennsylvania to matter, and all these voters to come out.
Natasha, thank you. John, how do you see things right now in the state of Pennsylvania?
Well, thank you, Nora. First of all, it's great to be with you and that awesome political team you have around you. There's no question that Pennsylvania is key, and Western Pennsylvania is going to play a very important role in all of this. You know, it wasn't that many years ago when Western Pennsylvania, particularly the counties that surround Allegheny County, greater Pittsburgh, voted Democratic for president. When Al Gore ran in 2000, 6 of the 10 counties out here voted Democratic.
And look at this now on this picture. Pennsylvania resident or president. 50% Harris, 50% Trump. So this one in Pennsylvania is neck and neck.
And in recent elections, it's down to one county. One county, Allegheny, which is the Pittsburgh County, is the only county voting Democratic. So for Kamala Harris and for Donald Trump, the votes out here are absolutely essential. And winning those votes requires them to spend time here. We just saw that the vice president spent the weekend here in debate preparation. That made perfect sense because it connected her to this region. But she's going to have to come back and go to the outlying counties, not to the city. Hillary Clinton made that mistake in 2016. She only went to Pittsburgh and she lost the state of Pennsylvania. 6 million votes cast, but she lost by 40,000 votes. That's all. She could have gotten those 40,000 votes had she campaigned in the outlying counties of Pennsylvania. And I will just add that I had a conversation with Mike Whatley, the chairman of the Republican National Party, yesterday, who said that when it comes to Pennsylvania, Donald Trump wins it or loses it right here in Western Pennsylvania. Nora?
Wow. So we're watching this debate tonight. And while we're watching it, Pennsylvanians are going to be watching this and they're going to decide. I mean, you know, it's so late. We have 2 months left to the election. Most people probably already know who they want, whether it was Biden or Trump. And Biden dropped out and Kamala came. So is she bringing an influx of new voters, maybe African-American voters, maybe African-American women voters, maybe African-American men voters? Some black men don't like Ms. Harris because she was all about law. And a lot of men went to jail when she was prosecuted. So they said, you know, she's hard on crime, she's hard on black men. So, but there's also a lot of black men that are going to Trump. But then there's also a lot of schools and sororities that are going to Harris. And then there's a lot of people that, well, probably weren't going to vote at all, that may vote because they see Harris and she may be the first African-American lady only 8 years after the first African-American man. Who would have thought that would even happen, the possibilities of that even have an opportunity to take place? So it's amazing. So this election, I keep telling you people, it's way more important than what you think.
It's an excellent point. And so, John, have you seen any signs that the Democratic campaign, whether it's Kamala Harris or her vice presidential nominee, are going to go to any of those counties that you talked about, those collar counties?
Well, yes, they've learned the lesson of Hillary Clinton, and they have been out here. The vice presidential candidate, Governor Walz, was down in Fayette County, once a Democratic stronghold, now votes Republican. He was also up in Erie as well. Kamala Harris was out here just before the convention with a little bus tour in which she went to Beaver County and really locating herself in areas that are traditionally Republican nowadays. But it's the margins. You got to win a few of those votes in order to win Pennsylvania. Philadelphia is important, but let's not forget this Midwestern part of Pennsylvania. Nora?
John Delano, thank you so much for your expert political advice and analysis. Thank you. Coming up, let's talk about the economy, how the candidates compare when it comes to your hard-earned money.
And that's what's going to be interesting. When it comes to your hard money, what do you think? Is the economy, again, the #1 issue? Watch it, keep it simple. Yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. And we're getting closer to the debate, people. So these are the stakes. These are big stakes coming up. So nearly a month ago, people saw the trajectory. A little over a month ago, they thought it was going to be Biden and Trump, and it wasn't. Okay? So Harris came in. She had the Democratic convention. Everybody thought she'd have a crazy bump. She hasn't. but she's gotten closer to Trump. People thought she was going to really, really overtake him, but she hasn't. And it's crazy because Donald Trump, he got shot not too long ago. Okay, so it's still close. So though Trump had a 2-point lead in a poll, she maintains a national lead of between 1 and 3 percentage points on average. Wow. It's interesting. Harris's national lead is slightly closer to Hillary's insufficient, they called it, 2-point popular vote victory in 2016 than Biden's 4-point win in 2020. Remember, she had the popular vote, but she didn't have the electoral, and that's how Trump won. In the battleground states, it's pretty close, as we said before. Her largest lead is in Wisconsin, 2.7 points, while Trump's biggest lead is in Arizona, 2.1 points. So why haven't either one of them broken past? It's interesting. We've known Harris for at least 3 years, but have we really known her? We've only got to know her in the past month and a half. But even then, do we still know her? So on average, about as many voters have a favorable opinion of Harris as view her unfavorable. Far from overwhelming popularity, but not too bad. So 50% have a favorable opinion of her, 50% don't. So Trump's, his favorable opinion, his opinion stands at 44%. So she's got about 50. He's got 40. So she's winning in that. I thought that was interesting. So what's at stake? Is it more Trump or is it more Ms. Harris? So people got to get to know who she is. Maybe they'll get to know through this. I still wish they had the mics on and they could talk against each other. That's what a debate is. Not a polite. And I'm against fracking. Okay, well, you're against fracking, but I want to say something, but I can't interrupt you. So I got to wait till you finish. Okay, is that a debate? I don't know. That's just like a polite conversation. All right. So people, as far as them knowing anything about her, 71% say they think they know everything they need to know. 71%. That means her numbers could get up if she puts something out there. And Trump's is 90%. So, you know, everybody kind of knows Trump. He was president and everything. Okay. So now when the election almost threatened to have the most people ever vote, because you had high levels of third party voting. You had Kennedy, you had Jill Stein, you had Cornel West. Now it's quieted down. So some polls say since Kennedy ended his campaign and decided to endorse Trump, that where are those voters going to now? Of the 10 polls that currently comprise the average, only 3 included Kennedy on those polls. That means it's just Harris and Trump. So it is kind of like said, okay, forget third party people, which I think a lot of people like. You have libertarian too. So libertarian, Chase Oliver, he earned 2% of the vote, and Green Party nominee Jill Stein had 1%, but neither Kennedy nor Cornel West was included as an option. And fewer than 1% of likely voters volunteered each name. So, Dr. West, why are you running? There was a chance when Kennedy was running that he was going to make the stage for the debates. He needed to earn 15% in 4 qualifying polls. Hard, but not impossible. He earned 3 qualifying polls, but he failed to meet the ballot access criteria for that matchup. So, enthusiasm. Are more Republicans enthused or more Democrats enthused? 63%, neck and neck, are enthused as far as how they feel. about each candidate. Wow. So who's best to handle the economy? Trump, 52%, Harris, 40%. Okay. And so the biggest thing, the country, right direction. 25% thought it was in the right direction, 65% wrong direction. Not too long ago, 65%, well, 63% wrong direction, 27% right direction. Wow. Are we really looking for a change? Or are we looking for the same thing? Is voting for Harris a same thing change? Or is voting for Trump a change, same thing? Something to think about. You're watching Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander.